I left the Armed Forces in 2007. I was a physical training instructor. I left as a Chief PTI. There's not much more to add to that, really. Enjoyable career of 23 years.
Yeah.
And I've now been outside for 17.
Yeah. So what made you decide to leave the Armed Forces?
Well, I always wanted to do the full career service, which I
Yeah.
did. I got an extension in order to be able to do sufficient time as a Chief Petty Officer to get my Chief's pension. And then from there, it was more a case of, once I've done that, it's a case of, right, well, I'm happy now. Let's move on, rather than wait until I'm too old to do something else.
And how did you hear about the Forces Employment Charity?
It was all part of the process of leaving at the time when I did leave. So I was looking into different options, which way I could go. And it's one of the ones that popped up. And that's when I got in touch with Michelle at the charity, and never looked back since, because I've been able to contact Michelle constantly and utilise her experience all the way through. Even having left the military already, wanted to move from one job to another, it's been great for having somebody to contact to then look at another option.
So Michelle works in our Forces for London programme. What support has she been able to give you specifically through that sort of one-to-one advice and guidance, CVs, interviews, any help with any of that sort of thing?
It's a mixture of all that, really. And I think the other things as well that she's helped with is also helping me to integrate into the process as well, because she's had various guys on different occasions who have needed a bit of assistance.
Okay.
And she said to me, would you mind having a chat with them? And I've said, yeah, of course, more than happy to.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
so you've become a mentor as well.
Yeah, so there's been one or two situations like that.
So did you get your jobs through Forces Employment Charity at all?
For the most part, I did. Yeah, I mean, certainly the one I have now, I did. The first one, when I left as well, was through the charity too. And I think the ones in between, I kind of just changed my direction a little bit and just went along my own way. But then when I wanted to change back to a different route again, that's when I came back to the charity and found something different. So, yeah.
It's quite a change, isn't it, going from what you were doing into construction insurance? How did Michelle help you with that transition?
Not so much with the transition, but she said to me that this job had come up, and I looked at it and thought, well, it's something very, very different. I'll just go for it. And then I had the interview with the guys at Willis Towers Watson, and the interview went so well.
So what advice would you give to others that are transitioning out of the services?
I'd say to make the make the contact sooner rather than later, because you never, so many things will pop up and you don't know which is going to be the right thing until you arrive at the right one. Don't leave it until the last minute, because then the one you really want to do may not come along for a while, and you've got this gap in between it. And that applies especially from if you've already transitioned out of the service, because you can still utilise a charity afterwards as well. Yeah. If you're looking to transition out, then come back to the charity, speak to the guys, because they can put you on a path that might be good for you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned as well earlier that you used us repeatedly over the time that you've been out of the services. So
yeah, exactly.
And it's always
kept in touch. Yeah, kept in touch with Michelle constantly in between as well, even just for chats.
Yeah,
just to keep that link there, which is important.
Yeah. And it's fantastic that you've kept in touch with Michelle throughout all this time as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what sort of impact do you think she's had on your life, in your employment life?
She's had a very relaxing impact, in the sense that I've not stressed about going from one job to the next. Because she's there, I know I can speak to her and she'll help me to find the next avenue that I want to take. So, and that's quite an important thing, to not be stressed about where you're going next. So yeah, that's the main one.
Have you found our employment networks really quite wide, broad reaching across lots of different industries?
Yeah, most definitely. I've been quite surprised, because I left the military having been a physical training instructor. Yeah. But for me, when I left, having done that job, it was more about the management role that was the important thing for me leaving the service. And so I knew that there were going to be roles out there that were important for that. So yeah, there was such a diverse range of different things. And indeed, that's where my current role came from, working in construction insurance. So yeah, definitely diverse, and definitely worth looking at. And I'm pleased to have the opportunity to utilise a charity like this as well, to use them whenever I need to as well, which is great.
It's really important, isn't it, that it's there for a lifelong job finding service. It's not just there for the times when you need it, you haven't got a job and you're unemployed. It's actually really important that it's there for everybody throughout their career, even just to help them decide what the next career move might be, even when they're in employment too, isn't it? So
yeah, and it's especially helpful for those leaving the forces who, I go back to what I said at the start, if you've not worked in civilian life and you've gone straight from school to the military, you're not used to civilian life. Having the charity there to really help you with that transition is so, so important. And so I'd encourage people to make it one of their first points of contact the moment they're looking to leave the service, definitely.